Here.
All right, everybody, welcome to week 5 here in CU 101. Chef Matthew and I welcome all of you to another fine live session. Can you guys believe next week we're going to be halfway through? Is that crazy or what? It's amazing how quickly time flies. Week 5. Next week is week 6. We're going to have a different assignment submission next week. So put your seatbelts on, and I will explain that a little bit later. How's everybody's learning going? Is everybody learning stuff? We got a little one down there that is. Yeah. All right, cool. There's Chef Matthew and I were talking, and we're so impressed with all the stuff that we have going on in this class. This class has done a really good job communicating. A lot of people reaching out, asking questions. My phone is ringing quite a bit. And I really enjoy that, and it makes it worth teaching when you have those kind of circumstances, when people are saying, hey, I need help with this, I don't understand that. Hey, that's what we're here for, so take advantage of it. Week 4, ladies and gents, how'd you like it? How many thumbs up we got out there? Yeah, Alicia down there likes it. The other Alicia likes it. Yeah, Denise, good. Yeah, Robert, cool. So I think week 4 is a awesome exercise. We were just talking a little bit about some of the recipes, and it sounded like some folks didn't care for them. And you know what? That's okay. That's not an issue right now at this stage in the game. Once you get into 121, your next block, you're not going to use recipes at all, but you're just going to refer back to the techniques that you're learning in this class. And that's where those flavors are really going to come into play, and you're going to start working with them with the salt, the sodium, and all that other kind of good stuff. So just hang tight, ladies and gents. Had a couple of questions earlier this week as well. Some people wanted to deviate from recipes, such as the rice pilaf and the beans. We ask you not to do that, not quite yet. You're going to get a little bit of freedom here a little bit later on in this course, but we're really focused on you guys picking up on the techniques right now. That's the most important thing that you can worry about. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense yet at this point, and I know a lot of you are just turning to get out and start kicking out the different flavors and everything else. Hang on, man, hang on. You know, learn how to turn the car on before you start driving it, if you know what I mean. So you know, take your time with all of that. How'd everybody like the pasta? Yeah. Let's see. I want to hear Marcus up there in the corner, man. Marcus, tell me about your pasta experience.
My experience was great. It was just I guess the texture of it, trying to make it, you know, smooth out as I was flipping it. One thing about mine is it came out thicker than what it's supposed to be, but the taste came out great and everything. It was just thicker than what it's supposed to be. Okay,
that's all right. I mean, this is the right place to make it thicker than it's supposed to be, you know? Did you do it by hand or with the machine?
By hand.
By hand? Cool, good job. Good job. Chef Matthew's down there shaking his head like you did a great job. So,
yeah, a lot of people did it by hand, and I'll tell you, I'm impressed. There are a lot, even if it came out a little too thick, that's hard work. I know for a fact that's very hard work. It's very hard to get it thin. So I think the big bummer is when you roll it out and you think you got it pretty thin, and then you boil it and it triples in size. And you're like, gosh.
Alicia, what about you? What's going on? Alicia Walker, what's up with you and your pasta? How'd that go?
It was okay. I mean, like Chef Matthew said, it kind of like blew up while it was boiling. But I mean, other than that, it was okay.
Yeah. That was my
first time doing it like that, though.
It's your first time. Yeah. Did you use a roller, or did you use a?
I did. I used a roller.
Okay. Yeah. That's such a difference. So, cool. Good comments. What about some sauces? What about you, Julie? Tell me about your Alfredo sauce. What do you think? Alfredo sauce.
Hey, it was good. It turned out really good. I didn't have too much of a problem with making it.
No problems. Did anybody have the problem with the sauce breaking? Anybody reduce it too far? No, Amber's down there. No, it ain't gonna happen on my watch. No? I like that. What about the tomato sauce? Denise, tell me about your tomato sauce. How'd that come out?
tomato sauce. I had a lot of people and they loved it.
So you're famous now.
Oh yeah. They want the recipe and I won't give it to them.
You hold out, man. Hold out for the money.
Yeah. It's simple too. It was just turned out really good.
Awesome. You know what, ladies and gents, I'm glad Denise made that comment that people liked it and they wanted the recipe. That's one of the best feelings that we get. Chefs, successful chefs on the inside, one of the things that keeps us going is that we like to make other people happy. How many of you guys out there like making other people happy? Right? I mean, Thomas Keller, one of the world's best chefs, one of the most successful chefs in the United States, has a sign up in his kitchen saying that we're here to make other people happy, and that's what it's all about. And I know when I serve a dish and somebody says, whoa, I like that. You know what? That's payday, man. That's a paycheck right there in itself. So I think we all do it. What other kind of comments did you guys get from your friends out there? What about you, Kilanda? Did you get any kind of comments from your friends or family?
Yes, they like the Alfredo sauce, and they also say the tomato sauce was good too.
Yeah? Did anybody do 50-50 on the pasta?
That's my favorite.
Marcus did that, yeah? Down south in Mexico, we call that divorced pasta because you've got the two different colors on there, so they're separated. And so yeah, that's a divorce pasta. So that's pretty cool. Is everybody feeling pretty good so far in the course? Yeah, looking like you're learning a few things. That's awesome. That's great news. Hey guys, time to turn it over to our favorite Chef Matthew. Chef Matthew, I've got some pictures of your garden that I took off your website here a little bit earlier that I'm going to show to the class, and I hope it doesn't embarrass you.
Okay.
Yeah, but the garden's looking good, my friend. Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking really good.
Thank you.
Beans. Hey, do we have a lot of people out there holding up their fingers for the assignments?
Yeah, we did. It was good. We had quite a few. And
awesome.
You know what? I didn't see any toes.
Ha! That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Good job, guys.
No toes. I saw one out of uniform. And hey, you know what? We got some people that have had some trouble in the week 1, 2, maybe a little trouble in week 3 that were blowing it out of the water in week 4.
Awesome, man.
So I'm really excited to see that. And you guys probably hear me when I get on there and I see your assignment, I start cheering and yelling. I'm like, yeah, woohoo, yes, you got it, because I'm so excited. I love it when you guys nail it. I love to see home runs.
That's awesome.
I don't like baseball that well, but I love to see home runs.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? How are we doing on the uniform pictures? Are we getting full body shots? Or are we just getting headshots? Or what are we getting?
Well, there's still quite a few that are giving me the headshots and not giving me. If you've got to do a headshot and a toe shot, that's fine. But a lot of them, I'm still just getting the headshot, and I hate to take off points because that's a lot of points. So
yeah. So we got to make sure that we have to follow the rubric as prescribed. It's something you're going to have to get used to now because in industry every day it's going to be that way. So make sure that those shots are head to toe. We need to be able to verify that. It's very, very important. What about techniques? How are we doing on that with our knife cuts and our knife grips and all that other stuff?
They're looking really good. I'm seeing the cuts, and it's great. I think a lot of you made a comment. The tomato sauce, we're going to puree it. What's it matter what the carrots and onions look like in it? But that's a good question. But really, it's for your practice. And I think back when I was in culinary school, and even today, when I get a chance to practice, and okay, I'm going to dice 14 carrots. I know that I'm going to be better at it by the time I'm done. So it's just one of those things. You take every advantage and do some practice. And think about it this way too. What we're doing in here with the rubric and all these little details we want you to get, this is going to help you not only in your future but in your school career as well. Because in the next class, you're going to be doing the same things. And in the next class, you're going to be doing that too. So I'm coaching you and I'm pushing you so you get it straight now. And I'm being pretty flexible, don't you think?
I think
being
so.
flexible.
Yeah.
I see some heads nodding.
So those knife cuts, it doesn't make a lot of sense yet at this point. As this whole puzzle comes together and as you guys progress through the course, all of the stuff that we're teaching you here in your first class, it's your light bulbs are going to go off and you're going to be like, that's what he was talking about. Yes, I know now, right? And for the remainder of your career from today forward, you're going to be working with knife cuts every chance you get. Practice, right? Practice, practice, practice. 37 years in the kitchen, I still practice. Right? Because it's just one of those things that you've got to work to perfection on and maintain the perfection. So it's important. Anything else you want to talk about with the assignments, Chef Matthew?
No, I don't think so. I think that was it. Isn't that all we talked about earlier?
I think, but there was a big, there was something big. I wanted to bring that up here in just a moment, though.
Okay.
But I did want to touch on something since we have the class here. It's very, very important that we get everybody to try to post attendance at least once every 3 days. Okay? Post attendance, complete a knowledge check, complete your discussion forum, submit your assignment, respond to a discussion forum, watch a live session archive. It's very, very important that about every 3 days that you're logging in and you're completing an activity within the program. It really helps keep things fresh in your head, keeps you close to the program. And we want to keep you near and dear, especially in this 101 class, to keep everything fresh, to keep going. We're going through a lot of muscle memory right now. We're going through a lot of learning. So the more closer we are to the program, it's like being in a pack of animals, right? If you're in the center of the pack of the animals, you're not going to get attacked on the outside, right? So stick to the center of the group, man. Be checking in every 3 days at the least. And you know, this is a really cool program because you get those Vidyard recordings that are prepared by Chef Matthew, our very own Chef Matthew, prepares each and every one of your evaluations. The information that is included in those evaluations is critical to your success. Now, it's important that everybody listen to the entire recording because you never know when Chef Matthew is gonna pop, something crazy in on you. And it might be in the last 5 seconds. So you want to make sure that you start beginning to end. How am I doing with that, Chef Matthew?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, okay, I'm not the most exciting person in the world, but please listen to the video because I'm trying to fill that with information that's really important to help you. It's coaching, it's ideas, it's tips for your next assignment to get better and your next assignment to get better. So trust me, I don't love to hear myself talk. It's not about that. So,
yeah, and it's kind of strange because we're in the online environment. I used to teach at a ground school, the Arts Institute, and another school as well. When I was working at a resort, and you never get that much individualized attention, as in like a 3 to 5 minute feedback every week. You don't give that in a ground school. Here in this school, we give that to you, and I think it's an invaluable tool to help you succeed. So take advantage of it. It's really, really important, and it's only going to help you grow in the long run. So, this is like this school is like making a glass of orange juice. You got to squeeze every last drop out of that orange and take advantage of it. So we highly urge you to do that. Hey, moving on to our week. We've got a cool week here in CU 101. Let's take a look at our class page. We are moving into the world of grains and legumes to give you guys kind of a little taste of what that's like in reality. Can everybody see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we looking good here?
Yep.
By the way, ladies and gents, should you need to contact Chef Matthew or myself, our mug shots are right here, and mine is heavily photoshopped, by the way. And then we have Chef Matthew down here. Our contact numbers are right here, and our contact information as well. As we scroll down through week 5, is everybody watching these funny little videos that are sent out on a regular basis? I send them through your Moodle message and put them on the class page here. It's always a little few tidbits of information to help you get ready for the week. Hey, we have a knowledge check this week. Make sure it's submitted by Saturday. You guys have been doing a very good job with your knowledge checks. There's one thing that you need to remember. You need to read the research materials, and then you need to complete the knowledge check. Step 1, step 2, right? Don't do step 2, then step 1. Step 1, step 2. So you're going to read the research materials and then take the knowledge check. You can take that knowledge check as many times as you like, and only the highest score sticks. So please, everybody's score should be a 10. 10 out of 10, right? There's no reason for it not to be. So take it as many times as you like until you get to that perfect 10. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody, for attending tonight's live session. We're so excited to have you all here. Once again, if you can't make it, make sure that you watch the live session archive. Discussion board this week. Chef Matthew, do you mind hitting the mute button there, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The discussion board this week is slightly different. We are changing our grading policy, effective immediately. Okay? You must make your initial post into the discussion forum no later than Saturday, right? And when you make your initial post on Saturday, you will receive 8 points, right? Initial post for the discussion forum due no later than Saturday, okay? Then you must reply to 2 additional students' posts no later than Tuesday, 1 point for each reply. Does everybody understand that? That make pretty good sense? Now, for this week's discussion board, we've broken you guys up into groups. We're going to be talking about how to handle produce. So your CView student ID, depending on what number it ends with right here, that's the group that you will choose. Does everybody understand that? So if your group, or if your number ends with 1, you're going to be in the pumpkin group, right? And then if your number ends with 4, you're an artichoke. And then if you're 5, then you can be broccoli. So that's the way that is broken down this week. So you're going to go in there. You're going to make your initial post no later than this Saturday for 8 points. You will respond to 2 other students by Tuesday for 1 point each. Right? Good? Okay. And then down here, we have our assignments this week. They're pretty cut and dry assignments. You have a pretty light load this week as far as the rice pilaf and the legumes. So I'm going to guess that everybody's going to have their assignments in by Sunday, right? A friend of mine, a little bird, sat on my shoulder, and he told me he got a lot of assignments last minute last night, and which created kind of like a backlog. So we want to try to get everybody's, we don't know who that was, but we want to try to get our assignments in by Sunday. It's just, the reason for that is it benefits all of you and makes the system so much easier. All right, everybody, we are moving on to the world of grains and legumes. We're going to start talking about starches here for the next couple of minutes before we move on to the legume part. Rice is our topic, and there's about 40,000 different varieties of rice throughout the world. It's grown on every single continent in the world other than Antarctica. I don't think anything other than Eskimos grows on Antarctica. Am I right? Yeah? So the big thing about rice is very, very starchy, very high in starch. And depending on the type of grain that you're working with will depend on the level of starch. Starch is also referred to it's plant sugars is what it is. And that's referred to as being glucose, right? So sugar, we have simple sugar, then we have fructose, and we have glucose, and we have dextrose. Plant sugar is referred to as glucose. Now, the important part of learning about this, as you work with rices, if you have a very starchy rice, such as a Calrose, which is a sushi rice, right? When you cook it, it's going to create a very gelatinous effect. It's going to become very jellyish, and it's also going to stick together. However, when you work with a converted rice, like a long grain rice, an Uncle Ben's rice, that's a little bit lower in starch content, and you're not going to get quite that gelatinous effect that you found. You know, these starches are found in most green vegetables. The plants actually produce this glucose as a form of energy storage for itself, right? So you know, that's what's going on inside the plant. We like to consume these rices primarily because they're very, very high in you know, dietary fiber. There's not a tremendous amount of nutrition that goes on in there, as far as you know, other than the carbohydrates, the proteins, and all that. But it's not a highly nutritious vegetable. It's very high in dietary fat. It's a very good source of complex carbohydrates. I want to take a look at the rice, some different rices up over here on the screen here in just a moment, as soon as I can figure it out. And as I was mentioning, there's about 40,000 different types of rice out there on the market. Some of the rices that we want to focus on here are the long grain converted rice. Converted rice means that the husk has been removed, the bran has been removed by a steaming process. The rice has been cooked and then dried once again. Okay, so this is a very common rice, is what a lot of us use. In the hotel industry or the restaurant industry, we use a tremendous amount of long grain converted rice because it's great for buffets. It's nice, it doesn't stick together, and it holds very well in heat. So this is a rice that you will become familiar with in industry. And down here, this is a shorter, fatter grain down here, and it's rice that we use for risotto, right? And it's a short, fat grain, and it's high in starch. How many people out there have had risotto before? Right? A couple of you guys have. Well, risotto rice comes out with a very creamy texture. The name of the rice is arborio rice. Arborio rice. It's almost similar in nature to Calrose. It's a very short, fat grain, and it will stick together very well and create that nice creamy white sauce. Up here in the corner over here is the Calrose rice. It's almost a translucent grain, but it's very high in that glucose. It sticks like crazy. And then over here we have a black rice. Wild rice is actually a member of the grass family, believe it or not. Yeah, so when you're trimming your front yard, you might want to look out for it. Then we have red rice. And then down here, there's some very aromatic rices out there on the market today. Jasmine and basmati being two of the very aromatic rices. They're very long, skinny grains. And so they're wonderful to cook with. They have a slightly aromatic, floury type flavor to them, and I enjoy cooking with them. And you have to remember, you're probably going to end up working with a lot of rice throughout your career because it is the world's second largest crop. So rice is everywhere. Now, rice this week. When we talk about rice, and I hear this a lot in the industry, you're probably going to work with orzo at some point in time. How many people have heard of orzo out there? A couple of you guys, right? Don't get that confused. That is not rice, right? That is pasta. It's a pasta dish. It's pasta, right? Wow. Not rice. So you don't want to get that confused with that. Brown rice, it's kind of a hip thing these days. I imagine it's probably going to fade out of popularity here pretty soon. That's rice that has its husk on the outside of the bran is what we call it. It has a much longer cooking time because it's not converted, but it is much higher in mineral and vitamin content. So you see a lot of people refer to that. Cool thing about rice, as it has no cholesterol, it has no fat in it either. So a lot of people like to use that as a low fat. However, because of the high carbohydrate content in the glucose, you actually gain weight from eating it because your body stores the excessive energy that you consume as fat. So be careful. Just don't dig in and start eating a lot of rice. It could be dangerous. Let's take a look at what we're going to be cooking this week. Rice pilaf. Rice pilaf is our assignment. rice pilaf as it is, you see so many different variations out there. You know, I've seen people throw chorizo in it, shiitake mushrooms in it, mirepoix in it, and everything else. Rice pilaf is simply rice that has been browned in the saute process. That's it, right? Those starches, that sugar that's in there, that glucose, as you saute it, begins to caramelize. Just like you caramelize regular sugar, the sugars in the rice begin to caramelize as well. And that is the term that we get rice pilaf from.
It's a process. It's pilaf is the method of cooking it. So it's the pilaf method.
Good call. I like that. Thank you. Before we talk about the actual recipe for this week, it's pretty important that we understand how to work with this once we get in industry. You know, when you're at home, you probably cook a cup or two of rice for your family or friends. In industry, we don't do that. We'll probably cook 25 to 50 pounds of rice at a time in large ovens or on the stove, depending on however the chef likes to work with it. We cook it about 3/4 of the way. And then we pull it out and we lay it out on sheet pans and we fluff it up so it allows all the heat to escape. We allow it to cool for a little period of time, and then we put it onto speed racks and we put it into our refrigerator, and then we'll portion it out at a later time. Rice is a great item to keep in your steam table because it's going to hold together real well. So that's another one of the reasons. Or we'll utilize it in soups. We'll utilize it in saute dishes, et cetera, et cetera. Taking a look at this week's rice recipe. Dun, 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 dun. Are we there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Check it out. So rice is sold by the pound. So, you know, we see a lot of yields up here that are going to come out in various forms. One of the reasons that this rice is in the yield is in pounds is because our portion size will be in ounces. Okay. So if we say that we're going to have 4-ounce portion size, we have scoops in the restaurant industry that are like ice cream scoops almost. That's what they look like, but they all have different color handles to signify their size. So we keep those, and that's how we portion our rice out. And so if one portion of rice is 4 ounces, and there's 16 ounces in a pound, we know that in a pound and a half, right, you're going to get 6 portions, right? Because there'll be 4 portions per pound. 4 times 4 is 16, right? And then half a pound is 8 ounces, so we know that we'll get 2 more portions. So by cooking a pound and a half of rice, I know that I can get 6 people out of that easily. We don't estimate in the restaurant industry. We have to calculate, because you have to remember that our food is money, right? It's money on the shelf. And so if I cook too much, I throw my money in the garbage, and I don't care for that very often. So it's not a good thing. This rice, you're going to, rice pilaf, you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Make sure you do that before you start cooking, because it's a real hassle if you have to wait. It's part of your mise en place. You're going to heat your butter in a heavy oven-proof saucepan. Make sure you don't get that butter too hot, because butter solids burn at a very low temperature, and you don't want those brown flakes in there, because that'll give you a little bit of additional nutty flavor. Okay? Then you're going to add your onion. You're going to saute it until it begins to soften. Don't want to caramelize it. You don't want any color on your onion. That's a bad thing, right? You just want to have it nice and translucent. Then you're going to add your rice. You don't want to wash it. It's very important. You don't want to remove any of that additional starch, right? And you're going to stir over heat until the rice is completely coated with butter. That's where you're going to get a little bit of the browning effect in there. The recipe doesn't stipulate it, but you want to have a little bit of color on that rice. It's very, very important, okay? And then you're going to pour in your boiling liquid, right? So before you start sauteing your onions, make sure that your liquid is on the stove getting ready to boil. Turn it to a boil with the rice. At that point in time, you're going to taste it. You know, how's it taste? What's going on? And then you're going to place it in the oven at 350 degrees and bake it for 18 to 20 minutes. And then you're going to pull it out, and you're going to notice your rice is dry, and you're going to take a fork and you're going to fluff it. And then you're going to turn it out onto a flat dish. It can be a hotel pan, which is also what we refer to as a 200 pan or a 2-inch pan, which is about 18 inches long and about 12 inches wide. And you'll lay that in a pan similar to that. And you're gonna take your fork and kind of fluff it so your steam can escape. You don't want that rice to continue to cook. And then you could put a little butter on top of that if you like, depending on what your next intended use is. Did I miss anything, Chef Matthew?
No, that sounds pretty good. How many people thought rice pilaf had peas in it? Hands?
Yeah, there you go. There's some guilty people out there.
It can. You can put peas in there, but no, that has nothing to do with the name of it. That's what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
So
that's it. Let's answer Amber's question here. She's been awfully patient over here in the corner. If anybody else has any questions, great time to raise your hand. Amber, what's up?
Hi, I'm actually looking at my phone right now. I actually have a question about the stock or the water. Can we use store-bought stock, or do you have to make our own, or can we just use water? I know I've seen the recipe right here, but
okay, a couple of different things you can use for this. We want to stick as close to the recipe as possible. However, for those of you that don't eat meat or just don't happen to have a chicken laying around, if you have any vegetables laying around, you can make a quick vegetable stock. That always goes really well in rice pilaf. Just clean out your refrigerator, fill up your stock pot, let the water simmer for about 45 minutes. You'll have a great little stock to work with. We do prefer that you make your own chicken stock. However, if it's not feasible for one reason or another, you can use the store-bought in the can powder. God knows where it came from stock.
okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. All right. What about Blake Page? What's going on, man?
On the doing the produce handling, how you showed a whole list of produce.
Now, what's that? Can you repeat that?
Mine, when I bring up my assignments, I've just got when you showed the copy of the produce and it had the whole long list of, and you said look for your number. Like on my assignment sheet, it just says corn.
Oh, really? Let's talk about
assignment is corn. Mine just says your assignment is corn.
For
okay.
week 5. CU 101.
I see a lot of other heads nodding, so they must have theirs assigned to them already via Moodle.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're talking about the discussion forum. I thought you were talking about the rice.
Oh, no, the discussion forum.
That scared me there for a minute. Yeah, the discussion forum, you might be pre-assigned. The system might be selecting you out already. And I think they might have put that verbiage in there so you understood why you got put into that particular group.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have a question before we move on to the world of legumes? All right, cool. Legumes come in a lot of different forms. They can be peanuts, right? They can be peas. They can be beans. It's the fruit of a tree that grows in a husk is what it is defined as. It's simple, right? It's like a seed that's in the husk. Alfalfa is also considered a legume. Legumes nutritionally are not excellent for you. You can't just survive on legumes. However, they're very, very high in protein, which is something to remember. Rice and beans are considered to be a complete protein, and more people in this world survive on rice and beans than any other form of protein that is out there. So it is a very healthy thing for you to consume, because you have to remember that your body needs 3 things to keep kicking, right? We need fats, carbohydrates, and protein to keep on going. So it is something that is critical to consume. So if you're a vegetarian, consider eating lots of rice and beans. It's very, very important. The legumes, let's take a look at what I have up over here in the magic slide. This is where Chef Matthew's garden, I snapped this picture out earlier when the clouds cleared. I was able to sneak out there and take a picture of his garden. And are we up on the screen there, Chef Matthew?
That's right. Yes, we are.
Here's a picture. You know, I've always, as a chef, I'm always curious to see things growing, and here are some beans that are actually in the process. You can see the husk down here growing. Some grow on vines, some spread out across the ground, depending on the actual variety. Beans, there are about 18,000 different varieties of legumes out there in this world. So to sit here and discuss them, it could be quite of a long evening. The ones that we're going to be working with this week are the pinto bean, or which is not pictured here, the white bean. If you have black beans, you could probably get away with using those this week, which would be absolutely fantastic. Beans can be long. We serve a lot of them in the restaurant industry, still in the husk, such as the green bean, the haricot vert, the sugar snap pea, the sweet peas, all of those things we serve in the husk traditionally. However, a lot of them we do pull, which would be the dried beans. Now, before we get too much further into this, there's always a lot of comments. Hey, can I add salt to my water? Can I put baking soda in there? And there's a lot of yeses and there's a lot of nos, depending on who you're talking to. There is a website, the Bean Institute, right? I don't know who came up with the name. I don't know what it's all about. Somebody had enough time on their hands to start a Bean Institute. And the Bean Institute does cover a lot of these issues about putting baking soda in the water and salt in the water. And they have a lot of very in-depth scientific explanations for you to enjoy. So if you are so inclined to do so, certainly reach out and talk to them. A couple of things about working with beans. Beans are what we call a TCS food after they become cooked. Time, temperature, control for safety. So they are something that you cannot leave sitting out for a very long period of time. They are very susceptible to certain types of foodborne illness, especially after they become cooked, because of that high level of protein that is in there and the high amount of moisture. Chef Matthew, did I say it?
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's great you brought that up, because the important thing is when it's dry, it's not a TCS food. But once it's cooked, it is, because you've added moisture and now it has that ability to carry that bacteria. And rice is also the same. So
right, absolutely. And it's really critical to remember that when you do, obviously in the restaurant industry, we do not cook the beans to order, right? So we do pre-cook large quantities of beans. You know, it could be up to 50 pounds at a time. And you do need to make sure after the cooking process that they are laid flat. And the reason we lay them flat out on the sheet pans is to allow the steam and the heat to escape. So to get those beans to cool down as quickly as can be. You have to remember we work with what is called the temperature danger zone. That's 41 to 135. And if our food is in that temperature danger zone, that's when the bacteria is going to get most active and begin to grow. So we've got to get those beans cooled down to 70 degrees within 2 hours, and then 70 to 41 within another 2 hours. So laying them out is critical. Before we take a look at the recipe as well, it is very important that when you go to work with beans, since we do work with larger quantities, beans oftentimes come with little bonus things inside the bag. And it can be small rocks or small clumps of dirt. So what we do in industry is we'll dump out a portion of the beans onto a small container and just start shoving a few to the side, looking for rocks, looking for other things. I guarantee you're going to find rocks and other things inside your beans. So it's very critical that, number one, you look for debris, you know, FOD, foreign object detecting, if anybody's ever been in the military. And then you also need to make sure that you rinse those beans real well. They're not in the most sanitary boxes or containers, and so it's a very good idea to wash them. It's very, very critical. Let's take a look at our assignment for beans this week. And you have your choice. That's right, ladies and gents, your choice to work with one of two recipes this week. The first recipe we're going to take a look at is the white bean. There are two assignments due this week. One is for the rice pilaf, and the other one is for the legume. For the legume, you can either work with the white beans or the pinto beans. depending on which one you want to, one or the other, or both if you're so inclined as well. Taking a look at our first bean recipe, which is the white bean recipe, which is called Breton style. Is that up on the screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yep.
So they recommend soaking your beans overnight, which I always like to do. I've heard of some cooks like to put vinegar in there because they claim that it softens it up. I think the danger to the flavor profile is not worth the risk of adding any type of acid or sodium to your soaking beans. It's just not worth it in the long run. And then you're going to drain your beans and you're going to place them into a pot, cover with water by 1 inch. And then you're going to add your mirepoix. Your mirepoix for this recipe, we'd like to see it in a nice small dice being a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Chef Matthew is going to want to make sure that you are consistent with your knife cuts. So pay close attention to that. Last week, we discussed the special word right here, sachet, right? You can use cheesecloth or a coffee filter. And then in that, you're going to put your parsley stems, peppercorns, clove, thyme. I like the clove in there. I think it adds a nice flavor. And then you're going to fold that up nice and neat like a little postage package, and you're going to tie it and then tie it to the side of your pot. And then you're going to heat some butter in a large sauce pot. Saute your onion and garlic until soft, right? Not caramelized. We don't want to see any color. When garlic begins to caramelize, it becomes bitter, right? And we don't like that. So we just want a little bit of translucent in the onions. You're going to add your tomatoes, cook a few minutes to reduce the liquid. And then you're going to add your beans and simmer until all the flavors come together and make one big happy family. And then you might have to add a little bit of additional liquid to that as well. The liquid would just be water. I prefer stock whenever I have the opportunity to use it. And then at the very end of the cooking process, you're going to adjust the seasoning with your salt and pepper. And that is recipe 1, you know, what's behind door number 1. So, yeah.
Chef, that was a good point. You said you prefer stock in a lot of places over water. And I just recommend to you guys, think about how you're going to get flavor into something. I mean, what does rice taste like just as rice? Converted rice, not much. It's okay. You can put a little butter, a little salt in there. Okay. But if you use stock, now you've got some flavor layers built in there. So think about that. Just about any recipe that calls for water, you could replace with stock and really improve your flavor. You know what I mean? Is everybody hearing me there? Good.
That's right.
See those heads nodding.
That's right. I don't know when the last time somebody just woke up in the morning and they said, hey, I want to have a bean, right? But if that bean is cooked at the stock and it's cooked with herbs and the sachet and everything else, you're going to create a really nice condiment to whatever you're serving on that plate. So, you know, what Chef Matthew is talking about, the kitchen gold, it's very, very, very important. Let's answer some questions here before we take a look at our next question. Blake, did you have another question? No, that's just residue. Okay, what about you, Amber? Hi.
Again, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Sometimes. About the beans, how do we, like, when you soak them overnight, how do you store them? Like,
in the
leave them out in room temperature?
Great question. So you're going to fill your beans up. You want to cover them at least 1 or 2 inches with cold water. You're going to put them into a refrigerator, and you are going to store them in the refrigerator overnight. Okay, does
cool.
That make sense?
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Good question. Thank you. Rudy. What's up, Rudy?
Yes, sir. Or do we have to make our back?
I didn't catch that, Rudy. Did you catch it, Chef Matthew?
No, I couldn't hear it.
One more time, Rudy.
I was asking about the stock. Do we make our own stock that it don't have more, or can we just use store-bought?
For the stock?
Yeah, you can use store-bought.
Yeah, you can use store-bought. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Rudy. Alicia, what's up?
Yeah, I was just asking. He said anything you cook with water, you can cook with stock.
Right.
Is that like macaroni and cheese and stuff like that too?
Yeah, wait, that's a really good question. I like that, Alicia. Thank you for asking that. There are some things in life that should not be messed with. Right? There's some things you just leave alone, right? Macaroni and cheese is one of those. It just kind of goes down that stream. But what Chef Matthew is talking about are primarily when we're working with foods that are extremely bland in nature. Bland in nature would be things like rice, beans, certain sauces, et cetera, et cetera. We made tomato sauce this past week. In that pot, you also made a little bit of stock, with the mirepoix and the pork and everything else in there. That really boosted the flavor. And that's what he's getting at.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Alicia?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you for asking that.
Question.
Very good.
Great question. So basically, I guess, proceed at your own discrepancy, and because it's like when we went through the phase with meatloaf, right? Meatloaf is meatloaf, and just don't mess with it, right? But there was this phase where chefs were putting like chopped bacon, shiitake mushrooms, and chipotle in it. It's just not. It's not right, All right, Jason.
Chef Kilonda has a question.
Sure, go for it. Hello?
Kilonda, go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, we had to use the chicken stock a while back, and I had froze that, and I was trying to see, could I just use that? I had already asked you that in the chat.
You're awesome. Great question, Kilonda. Absolutely preferred. Would love to see it happen. That's why we do it. So that's it right there. Thanks, Kilonda. What about you, Jason? What's up, man?
I was at the store today, and the white bean, I got the Great Northern beans. Is that fine?
That's perfectly fine. Yeah, they're a little bit of a smaller bean, so it's perfectly good. And there's a navy bean, and then there's a Great Northern bean. I've never driven down the street and said, hey, I don't want to go to that restaurant because they have Great Northern beans. I want to go to the other place because they have navy. So there's really a very little difference between the two other than size. So good question, though. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, who's next? Rudy, did you have another question?
Sure. I was wondering if we can cook them if we can cook the beans in a crock pot, or if we have to use a pan.
No, the ideal way to cook the beans is in a heavy bottom pan, because you don't want a thin pan that you would boil water in, because it doesn't transmit the heat evenly and effectively, and you get a lot of hot spots in the pan. And beans are starch, right? And that starch will stick to the bottom of your pan and burn and create an off flavor.
Yeah, also, as some of you may know, beans have gases, and you want that to cook out. So you want to leave that uncovered, right?
Yep.
Right? I'm
Yep.
just saying.
I don't want anybody floating on the ceiling when this thing's over. So we gotta watch out for that one. Thank you, Matthew, for bringing that up. Yeah. What about Julie Montgomery? What's going on? Julie.
Chef, my question is regarding the size of the dice. I know that a small dice, say a small dice cooked in any broth, is going to disintegrate faster. So when we called for a 1/4-inch dice against the tomatoes cooking, I wanted to know if the viscosity of the product, like the tomato sauce thick, if that degenerates the dice, the mirepoix, faster or less fast than what the chicken stock does. Just water. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does the water disintegrate faster?
No, that's a fantastic question. We do worry about levels of sodium in liquid when it comes to disintegrating vegetables, because once again, like I mentioned last week, sodium breaks down the vegetable fibers and forces the vegetable to deteriorate. However, in the rice pilaf and in the bean dish, you will not have any deterioration of your beer paw. It's not going to happen. I guarantee you your rice is going to come out looking mighty dandy.
Okay.
Great question, though. That's very interesting from a scientific standpoint. The reason, and I really understand your concern with the chicken stock, and what my concern is that it's boiling for 4 to 6 hours for a chicken stock. Yeah, it's going to disintegrate and break down. Tomato sauce, yeah, we pureed it, but we're trying to really get you to practice on your knife cuts.
Got it.
And in that rice, those vegetables then, since they're not going to disintegrate, are going to be part of the garnish, right?
Right.
They're going to be a finished, visual, appealing part of that. So you want them to look nice.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate the question. How about Sharon? What's going on, Sharon?
Okay, I have a question about the broth also.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to remake my broth, and last time I made it, it did not gel up. And I'm wondering if I didn't ice bath it long enough. Do you continue to put ice around it constantly as it's cooling?
Until you get down to your temperature. But and that will help it. However, if you didn't get that gelatinous effect, could be a couple of different reasons. Not enough cartilage on the chicken. Try to use chicken feet, chicken wings. That'll really help it out. The gelatinous effect oftentimes will take at least a day or overnight to fully set. It's just like Jell-O. And then number two, it's stock. So there's a big difference in between broth and stock. Broth is something that's made with primarily meat, whereas stock has bones in it. So we try to make sure that we clarify the difference between the two, because that's going to help other chefs understand the viscosity of the product and what the capabilities of the product are. So for example, if I have beef broth, I'm not able to make a reduction sauce from it because I know it's not going to thicken. However, if I have beef stock or a veal stock, I can reduce that down by half. I know the viscosity is going to increase because of the collagen in the stock, and I can use it in a nappe consistency. How's that? Good?
Very well put.
All right, thank you. Yeah. It sounded like I was a textbook there for a minute. Does that answer your question there, Sharon? Y'all good? All right, how about Jacqueline?
I was wondering if I can please use some of the chicken that I cut up already to make some more stock for the assignment that's due Sunday.
You absolutely, yeah. I encourage that. Just make sure there's bones in there to get the stock so you're not making broth. However, with rice, it is okay to use broth.
Okay.
Sound good?
And if you're using cuts of chicken that have good meat on it too, make sure you use that meat for something good. I mean, boiled chicken makes great chicken salad. So
yes.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. How about Petula? Where is Petula? Where is she?
Right
there you
here.
are. What's up, Petula?
Hello.
Hi.
What I want to know, okay, when I made my chicken, I used the chicken feet, and it came out pretty good.
It came out good?
It tasted really good too. Do I have to the feet up?
Did you get that, Chef Matthew, the question? You were breaking up a little bit there, Petula.
I got the cheese.
Hey,
Use the
Petula,
chicken feet.
Can you send your question through the chat? Do you know how to send the chat?
Yes.
Okay, send it through the chat. That way we can hear it, because you're breaking up just a little bit. Yeah. And I'm old. I can't hear that good. Okay, cool. Thanks, Petula. All right, ladies and gents, we got one more recipe that we got to take a look at here. Remember, you have your choice of either bean recipe to work with this week. The other one is very near and dear to my heart, as my wife was born and raised in Mexico and Cuba. So this is something that we have around our house quite a bit. And these are frijoles de olla, Mexican pinto beans. They are quite delicious. And you notice here at the yield at the top, it's spelled out a little bit differently. 10 to 14 portions with an approximate portion size of 4 ounces. So you're going to see a lot of these discrepancies as you're going through the industry. Remember, This is why we have to learn conversions, and our math is so important. So we can properly prescribe how much for our cooks to prepare. Soak your beans overnight after you've got all your mise en place ready. Combine the beans, water, onion, garlic, and jalapeno in a pot. Now, we're going to talk about the jalapeno here in just a sec. Don't let me forget, Chef Matthew. We're going to bring the pot to a boil, reduce heat, and simmer. Cover for about 1 hour. Check the pot from time to time. You want to be stirring it. Make sure that there's enough liquid in there. Don't let it go dry. Otherwise, you're going to have a sticky mess. And then, my favorite part when you get to the end is you add the lard or other fat and salt and continue to simmer until the beans are tender. And make sure you don't let those beans go dry. And there should always be some measure of hot water there should always add additional hot water if necessary. It says lard. I prefer to use butter because I like that flavor. It's a very simplistic recipe. Prep it out on Friday, cook it on Saturday, submit it on Sunday. When it comes to working with jalapenos, ladies and gents, which is a very common ingredient for us, so we're well adjusted to it. However, in the pith and in the seeds of a chili pepper is a substance called capsicum. Capsicum is what carries the heat of a chili. Now follow me on this, it's very, very important, right? The heat of a chili is determined by what we call Scoville units. Scoville units were invented by a pharmacist back in the early 1900s, right? So you take like your average jalapeno pepper, which comes in about 5,000 Scoville units or so. Whereas you get up to the habanero. Everybody's heard of a habanero pepper before? That habanero gets right around 250,000 Scoville units, right? Oh, hold on. But then you get up into the Carolina Reaper, the ghost peppers, everything else. Now you're up right around 2 million Scoville units, right? Those are things that you don't want to be dealing with. As a recommendation, wash your hands, wash your jalapeno before working with it. Cut it open, lay it flat, remove the pith and the seeds if you don't want the heat or as much heat. When you are done, make sure that you wash your hands again. Because if you happen to run to the restroom and use the restroom without washing your hands first, the Scoville units, yeah, it's not a good experience. So when it comes to working with peppers, make sure that you're washing your hands. I prefer to, with some of our newer cooks, they'll wear gloves to protect themselves. Some people can be very sensitive to those Scoville units. Jalapenos can be a little bit spicy, but in this recipe, it's not going to really rock you out of the world. Just be conscientious of what you're working with the pith and the seeds that have the capsicum. It can be a little bit irritating, and make sure you don't rub your eyes. Yeah, that can be painful as well. So ladies and gents, let's rock on and check out our assignment page this week. See what's going on in our world. So assignment submission, right? It's the general rule of thumb that we have for all of our assignments. So for the rice pilaf and your choice of legume, you're going to have your self-identification photo. Remember, as Chef Matthew mentioned earlier this evening, it's a head-to-toe shot. It's not a, whatever. It's a head-to-toe shot. And then make sure you have your sanitizer bucket, your test strip, right in between 50 and 100 parts per million. Very important. Proper mise en place. The recipe for the rice, and I'm sorry about this, I told you small dice is actually brunoise, 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch. And you're going to have that up against a ruler. That is required for this week. Brunoise, 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch. Sweat the onion in the pot. Toasting the rice in the pot. Yes, Chef Matthew.
Put those dices, those brunoise, right up next to the ruler, just right there. Just here's the ruler, and just line them right up there. Just give me like 4 or 5 right next to it.
We like it that way. Rice and onion covered with water or stock, properly cooked and fluffed rice when plated. And then down here we have our legumes, self-identification photo, mise en place sanitation bucket, mise en place, simmering beans, and properly cooked and plated beans. And then that goes for both recipes as well. And then this week we also have a narrative. So that is important. let's answer some questions. Petula, did you get your question answered? No? Yeah. Petula, did you get your question answered? You're still breaking up just a little bit. So, Chef Matthew, you want to send a chat message to her and see if we can get her question? So we make sure that we answer it.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the chat, so.
Chef Matthew's going to get a hold of you, Petula, to help you out. Does anybody else have any questions for this week? No? No questions? What a quiet crowd. Ladies and gents, thank you for a great live session. I think we covered a lot of information this week. If you have any questions, once again, make sure you're reaching out. Get your knowledge check done tonight. Get your discussion board started tomorrow. Plan your week on Friday. Submit and cook and submit your assignment Saturday and Sunday. Chill on Monday, Tuesday. Make sure you're checking in at least once every 3 days by completing an assignment. Now we have some questions. Blake, what's up real quick? Blake?
Yes, sir?
Did you have a question?
Yeah. On
What's
the
up?
discussion forum, where it says like answering the questions on there about, proper or the identification stuff, do you want us citing like USDA stuff or?
You're going to read the research materials, and that will give you a lot of insight to how to answer that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Kathy, what's up, Kathy?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
The discussion question about the tomato, I didn't really understand what that was talking about.
Which part don't you understand?
The discussion board talking about the tomato.
Okay.
What is it asking us? Is it something that we're supposed to get a tomato and taste it, or
no, you should.
Instructions.
Let me pull it up right now, and I'm going to read the actual question so everybody will understand, and we can find out what's going on here. I'll have to send you a side message after I read the actual question, just to be extremely clear. But I'll send you a message, Kathy, to let you know for sure. Any of the questions that we ask in the discussion forum, the information is generally contained in the research materials, so you'd be able to get any type of relevant information for the research materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question? All right, ladies and gents, thank you very much for a great live session, and I look